Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening, or good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. Welcome to the 76th of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D slash nerd slash TTRPG slash anime slash sports podcast, where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the Bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer any questions that you might have. Please send those questions in. As we like to do at the top of the show, as always, is remind everyone of the email here, which of course is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice, if that helps you remember. Please send any questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques, etc. to bardadvice@gmail.com. Even if it's just like a cool story that you want to tell or a follow-up on a question that was asked previously. Please send those in. Your questions help drive the show. Your questions are just as important as me being here in terms of the production. If you want to get some merchandise, you can do so over at manshorts.com, or more notably, you can go to krakendice.com if you haven't gotten yourself one of the 3 thus far produced D&D dice sets that we've made for Man Shorts with Kraken. I don't know a specific date on when the next one will come out, but it will be soon. I've been told that it'll definitely be at some point in the next month or so, some point this summer. So keep your eyes open for that. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. Also, at the top of the show, we like to remind everyone, or rather, we would like to thank all of our patrons, our members, our super chatters, and remind everybody to please like the video, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and rate the podcast on your respective platforms. If you're in here, it's much appreciated. I hope that you're doing well. I hope you've had a good week. So, hello to all of our regulars, Chris, River, Amanda, Ruby. Ruby, I hope you're doing well. You're actually our first question this evening, so we get producer credits. Yes, technically speaking. I mean, the show is probably equally produced by the people that ask questions as much as it is me. You know, I wouldn't have anything to talk about if I didn't have questions. So, and yes, please remember to like the video if you're in here and you're watching. Give it a thumbs up. It's helpful for the algorithm. All right, so let's do a couple of things for Art Corner this week. There's a few things, actually, that I wanted to recommend to people. 2 of them are shows, both of which are on Netflix. The first one is Your Honor, which is a couple of years old. Granted, I'm surprised I didn't get on the train sooner. I think that it was like exclusively a Showtime or a Star show or something, but now it's on Netflix. I don't know if there's going to be more than just the 2 seasons. I'm almost done with the first one. Well, that's not true. I'm about halfway through the first season. It's really good. It's as good as you would expect from Cranston and these other cast members as well. I think did a really good job. The writing is good. It's a really cool production. So I definitely recommend Your Honor. And also something my wife and I watched this afternoon, which is The Mysteries of the Terracotta Warriors, which is just really fascinating stuff. A lot of it focuses on the archaeological digs that they do in China with these huge, like, tombs and sites that they find that have all of these terracotta warriors in them. But then it also talks a good amount about Chinese history and specifically the Qin dynasty. It's super interesting. I discovered in watching it today that I know almost nothing about Chinese history. And lately, the last year or two, I've been kind of on a kick of like Egyptian and Roman history. So it's cool to go back and look at that stuff and just see how much history repeats itself, in terms of like humans just saying the same kind of stuff. So Your Honor's on your list of what to watch. Yeah, it's Your Honor's top tier. And the Terracotta Warriors as well is really good. Also, just another quick note for Art Corner is that the collab album that I've been working on with Song Math Lord is almost completely done. We are in the very final stages, so I suspect that within a week or 2 it will be up and available for listening pleasure. It's super dope. I think that it came out to like between 25 and 30 tracks. But as I've mentioned it before on here, it's kind of like a hip-hop, electronic, space, epic opera. So I highly recommend checking that out once it comes out. I'll be pushing it on my socials when it does come out. And before we get into questions, just another reminder for everybody as well as myself that next Saturday, not tomorrow, but next Saturday, June the 22nd, we will be doing a fan meetup at the Coliseum of Comics, which is on Roosevelt Boulevard in Jacksonville, from 2 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, June the 22nd. So we'll just kind of be chilling there. I'm not entirely sure who all is going to be there. I know that I know myself and Jay, who plays Lance, will definitely be there. Justin's going to try his best to make it. I think Justin and Melissa both, because they're going to kind of be like in between trips. But I think that there's an opportunity that they might be able to make it in the window. So hopefully that works out. And yeah, so just come chill with us at the FLGS. And maybe we'll do something where we do like a live stream too for anybody that's not able to like physically make it. So just something to think about. Okay, so I think that's all the housekeeping stuff and all the Art Corner stuff before we get into the questions we've got this evening. So let's get into it. As I mentioned, the first question of the evening is from Ruby. So let's talk about that. So Ruby asks, "Hey Chaz, hope you're doing well. My heart surgery on Tuesday was okay. Glad to hear it. Been using a natural oral chelation formula, I'm not sure if I pronounced that properly, to help repair the damage from your cancer treatments. It seems to be working, which is amazing." That's fantastic. Everybody say congratulations to Ruby, excuse me. That we're very happy to hear that, of course. So Ron and I are wondering, what online product do you recommend for making a character so you can keep track during a campaign, whether online or in person? Have a great day. Well, thank you, Ruby. And as I said, I'm very glad to hear that there is some improvements there, that things are going as well as they can. That's wonderful. So great. And for character sheets, so let's see. I made a couple notes here. So for me, I've always just, and I've done this for as long as I've played, I've always just done like a PDF character sheet, because the thing about that is that you can use it multi-platform as far as like on your phone or your PC, but you can also just print it out so that you have it, like a physical copy, if you want to use it in person. So I usually just do it with a PDF. But as for the apps, chat, please feel free to pop off with your recommendations if you've had experience with different ones that work well for something like that, as far as being able to use it online as well as like in person. I don't personally know any other than the D&D Beyond app itself, and if you don't want to go like the corporate route, there is one that I've used before for several years, and I'm pretty sure it's just called 5th Edition Character Sheet, and it's got like, the logo is like a green D20. That one I found was just like the easiest, at least for 5e. You can just kind of like plug it in on your phone. But I'm seeing people in the chat say paper and pencils. Yeah, I think that, you know, that's what I like about PDFs, is because usually I'll do it this way. I'll create the PDF or just like download the character sheet and fill it, and then I'll print it so that I have a physical copy of it. But I guess back in the day, like before I was as computer savvy in terms of like using PDF stuff, not that that's requires a terrible amount of savviness, but you know what I mean. Back in like 06, 07, I think we just printed blank character sheets and then just filled it out. Which, of course, the obvious benefit to that is just like erasing and adding and changing, like pencil and paper. Obviously, you can update it in the online program, like with the fillable PDF stuff. But you know, pencil and paper, I think, seems to be the best, because that's something that you can use in person or online if you've got it. So most of your stuff is Word 2002 for Windows 7. What are you, George R.R. Martin? As much as I don't like to endorse Wizards, D&D Beyond is pretty legit as 5e goes, especially if you already have the books. I was going to pay for D&D Beyond. I'd rather just get the books. I've always used D&D Beyond for my character sheet and Microsoft OneNote for everything else. That way I can share it with others in the group as needed. Yeah, does Google have one? I feel like that's a thing that there probably exists a plugin for like Google Docs or Google Sheets or something that's just like a D&D character sheet. So how do you deal with the hit points changing? Yeah, I mean, with pencil and paper, it's just like erase and make a note. with I will say with the fifth edition D&D character sheet app, I think that it has a pretty easy interface in terms of just like adding or subtracting hit points. I'll write out a character sheets too before you fill in the information. Just make sure you ink over the things you don't want erased. Yeah. So sorry that I don't have more options in terms of actual apps, but I think like besides D&D Beyond and like 5th edition character sheet, you probably just like go into your app store on your phone and search for 5th edition character sheets. And I usually just like look at that stuff by rating. But you can never go wrong with pen/pencil and paper, just because with that you can do it anywhere. You could do it in person or do it online. So print out a sheet plus a post-it note by the HP. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, having like a little separate area where you just like keep track of the HP for the evening. That way you don't even have to mess with the sheet if you don't want to. Just put a little note, a little post-it next to the thing. Cross out the number going down a long list. Yeah. So just keep it old school. Just print yourself some. Oh man, and now like all these memories are flooding back about how like I think one time we printed like 100 character sheets, and like we like sent them to Staples or something and had them printed just so that we could have them. And they probably still exist somewhere in a folder. We've used probably a lot of them, but yeah, you could just print a bunch of them and then you've got them. Pencil and eraser on a loose sheet also for spells and gold and stuff. Yeah, that's true. If you have like a little separate post-it note or a little sheet of paper that's like for temporary stuff like that, then that makes it all the easier. Okay. So, once again, glad to hear things are going well, Ruby. Hope that gives you a bit of an answer. We'll move on because we've got more questions tonight. The next question is from Will. And Will asks, hello, Yazik. I've been a fan of your music since the Charlie over 9000 days. Long time. I've never played D&D, but I've always been curious. My roommate recently mentioned that he could plug me into his game if I wanted. I don't know if you've done it before, but could you explain the different dice and what they mean/do? I don't know what they all do, and I don't want to seem like a total noob in my first session. Thanks. Well, thank you, Will, for the question. And glad to hear that you're looking into playing. It's real fun. I think you should do it. So I will give you some information that you need on the dice to feel a little more equipped. I don't know if I've answered this before. Maybe back in the long ago in like episode 2 or something maybe. But let's see. These are my notes. And chat, feel free to add anything. So, yes, there are many dice. Let's talk about them. The D20 is the main die. That's the one that you're going to be using the most. Almost exclusively, it'll feel like, because I usually describe it as like an action die, because you're going to use it more than really any of the other ones. So you use it to attack, you use it to cast a spell. Most spells, not all. You use it to defend sometimes with stuff like with things called saving throws. You use it a lot out of combat to do pretty much anything. To listen to something, to swim, to pick a lock, etc. So that's the D20 for the most part. And it's, the one that's most associated with the game as far as like on logos and stuff that people talk about is the D20, because that's pretty much what you're using. The other dice, to be honest, really only usually come into play for damage. So the D12, for example, you probably won't see much unless you're like a barbarian with a huge weapon or you're a higher level character. Because every weapon in the game, as well as any kind of spell that does damage in the game, has a designated amount that it deals, and it's typically done so in these smaller denominations of dice. So for example, the D4, the D6, and the D8, those are all over the place when it comes to damage. The damage is determined by a combination of the base stats, like I was just saying. So like, for example, and this might be wrong, but it's just like an example, like a short sword does like a D6 of damage. So that would be d6. That's the base damage that it deals. So you would roll a d6 and then add any pertinent bonuses, like typically your strength bonus or your attack bonus, for example. The D and there is other stuff that they use the D6 for. For example, when determining hit points, assuming you roll for them, when you build your character, you use D6s to determine your health. But for the most part, all those other little dice are really just there for like damage balancing purposes, because, you know, a short sword does different damage than like a great axe, for example. So all of these different dice account for that. The D10 is also used for damage, but I saved it to speak about last because it is a little special when used with the other D10 die that's the percentile die. So you'll notice in a standard 7 dice set of D&D dice or TTRPG dice, you'll typically have a D10, which is numbered 1 to 10, but then you'll also have a percentile die, which is numbered 00 to 90. And so that's going to be for things like when you're rolling random tables, if you're rolling for like a random effect that happens to you on a spell, or sometimes depending on what the DM's doing, you could roll the percentile to determine your chances to do something. So those two are used in tandem, both of those D10s, and you roll them together to determine the actual percentage. So, you know, 66% or whatever it is. So let me look and see what people in chat are saying so I'm not missing something. D4 for daggers and magic missile, D6 for low-end weapons, several D6s for fireball and sneak attacks, D8 for good weapons, D10 and D12 for big weapons, D20 for almost everything. Yeah. And so D20 is going to be, you know, it's like your smartphone. That's the thing that you've got right next to you and you're using all the time. And then the other dice are used mostly for damage. Sometimes they're used to determine, like for example, if you were a spellcaster and you cast a health spell, the amount healed would be like 2d6 or 2d4 or whatever the case. If you're like a bard, you would use d6s or d8s respectively as bardic inspiration, which is just, you know, that's a bonus that you can dole out to your teammates that they can then use on their attacks and stuff. So they do make appearances, but for the most part, the D4, D6, D8, D10, and D12 are going to be used for damage. You'll see the D10 occasionally in tandem with the percentile die for percentile rolls, and then the D20 is going to be what you're using mostly for everything. So, and yeah, I would also say I would encourage you to not worry so much about feeling like a noob. Speaking from my own experience as well as experience I've had a decade plus, like within the D&D community, people love new players coming in. For the most part, in my experience, people don't want to judge you or make you feel slow for not understanding. I talk about that a lot in the world's best RPG rap song, where I say, like, don't trip about the rules, you can learn as you go. That's totally true. So there's going to be, you know, and also even the most experienced of us run into things where we don't know what raw is. We don't know what the rules are. We don't know we got to look it up. So don't feel bad about being a noob. Be excited that you're going to be getting into something that's probably going to change your life, just in terms of like how fun it is. So I think you'll be surprised. The overwhelming majority of players are welcoming to newbies. Yeah, for sure. Definitely more so than like video games. And I think that's kind of a misconception, because like with nerds, like a lot of us who are like quote unquote nerds, like into nerdy stuff like tabletop games or video games or anime, like the video game community can be really toxic when it comes to like noobs. And D&D is not that way at all. And I think a big part of it is because D&D is more of a cooperative game, whereas you're all working together, not just you and the other players in your party, but also the DM. You're all working together to kind of like nurture this experience of having fun. Whereas with video games, it's like you're just working within the boundaries of like whatever the rules are. And so, yeah. Avram says, don't be afraid to ask questions. Not knowing doesn't matter. You're being interested in play and Participation and imminent in the story, and the group will embrace and help you as much as you need or want. Yeah, most definitely. Like, as long as you come into it with an open mind, the group will take care of you. Say, basically, tell the DM what you'd like to try in your own words. Everyone will help you if a dice roll is needed. Yeah, for sure. You're going to figure it out as you go anyway, so. All right. So, that's that. Thank you, Will, for the question. The next question of the evening, as you might find ourselves stumbling into on this show, is from Chris. So let's talk about this. This was a fun question. Chris asks, if the 5e classes came together and formed a band, who would be each instrument? Thank you for the question, Chris. This was a really fun exercise. So, because originally I was like, what kind of band? Because there's two real ways you could think of a band. You could think of a band like a rock band, where you've got like drums, bass, and guitar and stuff. Or you could think of a band like school band that I was in for a lot of my school career. And so I kind of did a little bit of a hybrid in just like creating my own band based on the classes. And yeah, so here's what I've got. We'll see what people says. We'll see what chat says, but this is what I got. Barbarian's percussion, specifically the timpani and or the bass drums. The bard's the conductor / composer, or I see somebody noted the bard is the lead singer, probably. Bard's going to be like the composer of the piece and the conductor of all of everything. Cleric's low brass, probably tuba or baritone. Druid's on the woodwinds, probably something like a clarinet or an oboe. The fighter strikes me as somebody who would be who would be on like a show-offy like lead instrument, like the guitar or the trumpet. But then again, the rogue feels that way too. So that's kind of a toss-up. But I put the fighter on guitar and or trumpet. Monk's also on percussion, but probably more like the snare or the mallets, xylophone. The paladin's on the French horn for some reason. I don't know. It just feels like paladin would be French horn. But then maybe paladin would be a guitar too. I see pirates saying that. Yeah, I can see that. I could see like the paladin and the fighter like back-to-back guitars for sure. Ranger's going to be on the fiddle / violin. I said rogue on trombone. And I don't know why that makes sense to me. But I feel like the rogue's on the trombone. That would leave the warlock to be on bass guitar / cello, like a low string instrument maybe. Sork on the flute, and the wizard on the bassoon. Just because it's real weird. And it seems like a wizard thing. Also, honorable mention for the artificer. I feel like the artificer would be in charge of like any kind of electronic production. So they'd be like the DJ. So they would be, you know... Artificer's electric keyboard. Oh, electric keyboard. I didn't even think about keys. I didn't even think about piano. That's surprising. How did I not think of piano? But yeah, I mean, the artificer can handle that if they're doing like if they've got like a they've got like an electric piano. All right, let me see what people are saying. Paladin is bass. Battlemaster's a good conductor. Paladin should swap out fighter for the drums. Divine snare. Hell yeah, divine snare. Rogue playing electric guitar. Paladin plays triangle. Bard's lead singer. Rogue definitely plays trombone. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is about the rogue that makes me think trombone, but... Barbarian's bass, monk is drums, fighter rhythm, bard lead, paladin singer, rogue percussion, druid on keys, ranger the folky instrument, cleric background vocals, wizard light and sound. Oh yeah, and I didn't even really think about that either, with like, all I'm hearing is a D&D party ska band. Yeah, you know, I had a ska band in high school. Ska's great. That's like one of my favorite, you know, as much of a hip-hop head as I am. Ska's great. And like at least a couple times a year I'll find myself listening to Real Big Fish's Cheer Up. Love that album. And Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. Any Boss Tone stuff. Specifically like Let's Face It and Jackknife to a Swan. Now you want to listen to Goldfinger. Yeah, man. I think about that kind of stuff every time, like I see Tony Hawk's Pro Skater or something. And there's a guy I follow on TikTok that's like a total ska head, and he's like in a ska band and stuff. It's cool. Artificer's the stage director. Yeah, and that's another thing too to consider is just like the general production of it all too. So, but yeah, that's what I would do. That's how I'd set them up, and that was fun. Those kind of exercises are always real fun. Please, people, send more of those in. Just like fun ideas of like different classes or the different like D&D races, like how they would do things as to like what instruments and stuff they would be. Alrighty, think of the band as Kiss. Hey, didn't Kiss just sell all of their stuff? I was a huge fan of Kiss. When I was in like the 8th grade, dude, loved Kiss. And I'm pretty sure I just saw a story about how they sold all of their stuff for like $450 million. Some Swedish production company bought their catalog and the rights to all their stuff. It's pretty crazy, dude. 450 million? What is that, like 112 million a piece? I'll take that deal. Whose face did I never painted my face as anybody, but I will say that like Star Child was probably my favorite of the 4. Plus, also, in addition to like being a huge fan of Kiss, that was also around the time that I was a big fan of the film Detroit Rock City. So that was those kind of, I experienced those things in tandem. My love for Kiss as well as the love for Detroit Rock City. So, which is a hilarious movie. Anybody should watch if they haven't seen it. They sold it to help with cancer research. I did not know that. That's awesome. Good for them, man. Yeah, Kiss is cool. Kiss has a lot of hits. I don't think people realize. Go look through Kiss's discography. I think people would be surprised. They were relevant. I mean, they're still relevant. They're one of those that, like, people don't talk about a lot, but, like, they've stayed relevant for decades and decades. So, cool stuff. Okay, moving on. Thank you for the question, Chris. That was fun. We've got 4 more questions this evening, and we'll do a little chat. The next question is from Jay. And Jay asks, hey, Chaz, ruling question for 5e. Oh, I'm going to need chat's help on this one. Rogues get uncanny dodge to have the damage of an attack if taken on reaction. But what about the magic missile spell that never misses? It was brought to my attention the wording attack doesn't show up in the spell's description. Can a rogue use it in this case? If so, is it halved only 1 missile or the full barrage? Thanks, and keep fighting the good fight. Thank you for the question, Jay. So, first I made a note as to what my thought was, and then I went and looked it up. I went and looked up the verbiage on both Uncanny Dodge and Magic Missile, and so this is my opinion and my understanding on it. We'll see what chat has to say. To my understanding, Uncanny Dodge can only be activated when an attack is performed. And Magic Missile is a unique spell in that no attack roll is required. So, you know, part of the whole deal with Magic Missile is that it's a spell that you cast that you don't have to roll for because it always hits. So, in my opinion, because, I mean, it doesn't even have a save, right? Like, that's the whole point of Magic Missile, is that it just does damage. So, in my opinion, Uncanny Dodge wouldn't apply. There's no real attack to dodge. And that's, you know, just in the verbiage of Magic Missile. And spells do designate if it is an attack. Like Eldritch Blast, for example, requires an attack roll. So, I would allow you to Uncanny Dodge an Eldritch Blast because that's an attack. Magic Missile's just a spell. You just decide to do it. So, to my understanding, Uncanny Dodge wouldn't apply. Let's see if that's true. Full Barrage, Magic Missile is not counterable. Right. You can't use Uncanny Dodge on Magic Missiles. They just hit. It's like a cruise missile, unless shield spell. No, not shield either. Oh, interesting. The only counter to Magic Missile is the shield spell. Interesting. What? But I mean, a rogue probably isn't going to be able to cast that, especially if they're like a full rogue. So yeah, sorry, edgelord rogues out there, you can't uncanny dodge magic missile. That's kind of the whole point of magic missile. Um, Now, what's this shield spell? This is the spell shield. Like for example, if you had a scroll of shield, then maybe, but you would need an action to do it. Part of the benefit to uncanny dodge is that it's a reaction. Typical rogue stuff, right? Just like looking for like, hey, it isn't enough that I can like half damage from most attacks. Can I do it to every single one? It's like, no. No, dude. It's magic missile is not, for one, it's not an attack, and for two, its entire existence is predicated on the fact that you can't block it. According to chat, you can use the spell shield to block it, but probably not much of an option for you if you're a rogue. So yeah, sorry, you're just gonna have to take damage like everybody else. Now, obviously, you as the DM have that final call. So if you wanted to just throw them a bone and say like, sure, you can have, the first missile's damage or something, but as far as raw and chat are concerned, you can't do it. You can't uncanny dodge a magic missile. So an invisible barrier of magical force appears and protects you until the start of your next turn. You have a +5 bonus to AC, including against the triggering attack. You take no damage from magic. Oh. Interesting. My wizard main and my go-to level 1 spells are mage armor and shield. Yo, shield's a level 1 spell? That seems crazy. So if we're considering targeting the road for an attack, then it works. But if we don't consider targeting an attack, then it doesn't work. There are spells that target but aren't attacked, so rogue gets hit. Yeah, and I think that the big thing for me is that it's not so much that Magic Missile's description doesn't include the word attack, as much as it is that other spells do, right? Like Eldritch Blast says, make a ranged spell attack. Magic Missile, you just cast. You burn the slot, and it's done. It happens. And while I'm not much of a magic user over the years, like I said, that seems to be the whole purpose of it, is that it's like, well, this is like a guaranteed hit. That's one of the reasons that the damage isn't so high. What is it, like a 1d4 per missile? And then what is that? I guess you can like upcast it. But you know what I mean? You're not doing crazy damage, but it's just like guaranteed damage, which is really nice to have, particularly at like lower levels. And I know that in 3.5, stuff like Magic Missile, if you're a low-level wizard, you have to have stuff like Magic Missile, or you're just going to die. So, Uncanny Dodge doesn't work for AoE spells either. Oh, really? That's interesting. Counterspell or shield, but not dodge. 1d4 plus 1 per missile, and it's force damage. Right. Yeah. So it's not doing crazy damage. But that's totally a rogue question. That's just like, oh no, I don't want to take potentially 8 damage. I just want to take 4. And it's like, well, then get a scroll of shield, because that seems to be the only way that you're going to avoid it. Or counterspell. You can look to somebody in your party to help you out there. Magic Missile can be amped up, but it takes a lot of effort building around it. Yeah, I mean, you would almost have to exclusively build around it. So. Yep. So that's where we are. No uncanny dodge on Magic Missile. Hope that gives you an answer, Jay. And like I said, you are the DM after all, so it is your call at the end of the day. But looks like the rogue's going to be a little disappointed to hear that you can't have Magic Missile damage. Okay, so moving on. Next question. Thank you for the question, Jay. The next question is from Paul. And Paul asks, sup, DM. You've talked a lot about AI as a tool for artists, and you've mentioned that major production companies will likely convert to producing AI-generated content. In your opinion, how soon do you think this will happen? Any idea on a time frame? Also, looking forward to the collab album and any other musical projects you're working on. Thank you for the question, Paul. Yes, I do tend to talk a lot about AI. I see River said in chat it's already happening. That's going to be one of the first things I say. It is already happening. So at least with script writing and probably with editing and like CGI stuff, it's probably already happening. I was just talking about this with my wife recently. So I think it's going to happen like this. The year is 2026. Netflix has a new show, and it's the most watched show ever. And I'm talking like blowing like Squid Game and Tiger King and all of that stuff out of the water. I'm talking like 1 billion people watch this show or something. And then it's going to come out that it's AI. And, you know, people are going to get upset. Some people get furious, as they do, to threaten to cancel their service and stuff. And then somebody like Forbes is going to run an article, and the headline is going to read something like, people are mad that the show is AI, but according to Netflix, we've been enjoying AI content for years. So, time frame, any time between right now and like 26, 27, before we start to see like fully AI generated shows and movies. Like I said, I think that it's already happening now, certainly as a tool. Maybe not anything that's like fully AI gen, because I still think that the video needs a little work. But yeah, it's coming. And I should specify too, like I think that what it'll be is that Netflix will market the show as such. They'll say just straight up like, like whatever the title is, like let's just say the title was like The Lighthouse, and it would be like The Lighthouse, an AI generated show. It'll say it in the title, and that'll actually probably be what gets people talking and upset and, you know, popping off online. But then they'll run that article. Somebody will run the article that's like, what do you mean? We've been watching AI stuff. And then they'll list a bunch of stuff, and it's just, I think it's going to just like blow people's minds. They're going to be like, whoa, what do you mean this was AI? It's just like, yes, it's here. It's already happening. Work in oil and gas, and we just acquired a company that uses a lot of AI. It's starting to make us data people worry about this new tech can generate the reports. Yeah, the thing is with AI just in general is that it's going to be able to do a lot of the stuff that we humans do. Now, it's not going to be able to do everything. Certainly when it comes to the production of art in any kind, in my opinion, I don't think that AI will ever be able to replicate what humans can do, just because, like, I mean, I guess that theoretically you could teach it to, but I just don't know that AI, at least at this point, can experience and deal with emotions in the way that we do. The soul of things, so to speak, is something that I think is uniquely human. I also think like trade jobs, when it comes to like really specific stuff, like troubleshooting when it comes to like contracting or repair, whether it's like plumbing or electrical, I think that that stuff's kind of last on the bus in terms of being taken over completely. But lots of jobs in this, not just in this country, but on the planet, lots of jobs that humans do can be done by robots. And so if we have the robots and these companies, and you tell these companies that, hey, here's a robot, it can do the same job that these people do for half the cost or a quarter of the cost, and you don't have to worry about liability, and you don't have to worry about giving them breaks or giving them health care, etc. I feel like 95% of corporations are going to do that. They're just going to be like, yeah, okay, we're going to do that. So, software engineer, you're worried about your job too? Yeah, for sure. They just did this with an OnlyFans girl. She has multiple fake accounts that use her general shape. That's crazy. And I think that the likeness thing is going to be a big thing. Isn't that what's going on with like Scarlett Johansson and stuff? Isn't there something about that? I don't know the specifics of that story, but like we're going to start seeing that a lot. You know, recently, what was it? James Earl Jones, he sold his likeness to Disney as far as like the Darth Vader voice. Going to start seeing a lot more of that stuff. And why wouldn't you? Like if you were somebody like The Rock, why would you go and shoot on location for 7 months when you can just license them your face? And if people don't know the difference, they're not going to care. And I think that that's a big thing too, is people act like people are high and mighty about it just because it's like a scary transitionary time. People are like, "Ugh, I can tell." And it's like, okay, well, eventually none of us will be able to unless we have either software or like a tremendous amount of education and experience that allows us to be able to tell. Most people won't be able to tell the difference. And that's what I mean about that. The way that that stuff's going to happen with the article is that I can already see it in my head. Like I can see the show airing, being popular, and then people making a big deal out about how like, oh, this is ridiculous. AI is taking away human jobs. And then someone will run an article that's like, here's a list of 10 shows, 10 of the most popular shows over the last 3 years, and all of them include some form of AI. It's just, I mean, I think that's what it's going to be. Human labor still much cheaper. For now, yeah. Our managers keep assuring us that they will still need us, but if AI can do what I do, then I need to start something new. Yeah, I think that that's true for all of us. As a mail carrier, yeah, that's true. That probably won't. AI for president, sheesh. I mean, maybe. Certainly not having emotion. The trouble with AI as it sits right now is that it's not independent in the strictest sense. Like all AI is just like based on what's been fed to it. So that's of course the tricky thing. But I mean that's true I think with anything else. I think ultimately it's going to be a thing where it gets worse before it gets better. And I also think too that like as AI gets more integrated, there's going to be, for every job that gets lost, new jobs will be created, because I think that kind of happens throughout human history with the introduction of something new. There comes a new job for stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. If AI can unload a truck, I'd welcome it. Yeah. And I think a lot of people feel that way. I certainly feel that way. Like, I think that we should, instead of, obviously we should be vigilant and like keep our eye on things and be concerned about terms and services and stuff. But I mean, we should do that anyway. I think that for the most part, it's going to be a really big tool, and it's going to just help us do stuff that's the misconception. People act like AI allows us to do things that we've never done before, and it's like, not really. It just allows us to do the things that we already do quicker. Like the idea of like selecting something in Photoshop. I do it all the time. I do it weekly in Photoshop. I'll go in and I'll just like circle something and then ask it to remove it. It's like, I could do that myself. It would just take me half an hour. Now I could just go in and tell the AI to do it. So I think for the most part it's helpful. It's just going to like make things that we already do easier. So, all right, moving on. So thank you for the question, Paul. The next question of the evening is from Amanda. And Amanda asks, your character is visiting a tavern and they are having a game night inside. What game would your character play in the campaign? Would you have your character play D&D in a D&D campaign? Well, thank you for the question, Amanda. It's meta, so let's talk about that. So it depends on which character it is, first and foremost, right? So I thought of two main ones that I'll talk about. Tantor Mantar from the We Play would very likely want to play a war game like Warhammer 40K or Dogs of War or something that's like more of a war game than like a strict TTRPG. Somebody like Studebaker Peppercorn, on the other hand, would probably be more interested in something a little easier to understand, like 5e D&D or like Pokemon. As for playing D&D in D&D, that's pretty meta. It could be a fun exercise. I think that it would be complicated, but it would be cool. You could definitely do it if there was like an experienced group of friends who've been playing for a long time. So what I thought is that, what if you were to like set the main campaign in like a futuristic cyberpunk world where the players have to make their own like PCs that are in that world, and those characters in that world enter like these animus type contraptions and play as like their ancestors or like heroic figures from the past in that world, and things that they are doing immediately affect things in the current futuristic cyberpunk type world. It'd be hella meta, but I think that would be super cool, and an exercise in RP as to just like, okay, so you have this character and they're in like a D20 future or a D20 modern type setting, and then they go into this animus thing, and then they play, and now you're in like more of a fantasy medieval D&D type setting, and everything that you're doing has a direct effect on what's going on in the future world. So, see what people are saying. 3 COD money for your rogue, dragon chess for my wizard. Man, I didn't even think of other games too. Like Studebaker would probably be up for like Uno or like Go Fish or something easy that he could like not get distracted with. My characters play people and properties as an ambulance driver or meetings and managers. Rogue would be the king of Monopoly. Everyone in the campaign has to play Monopoly with real campaign gold. See how long before somebody flips the table. Oh, yeah, that'd be really fun. The Rogue B's game is one where... Oh, the Rogue's best game is one where he can bluff everyone. Texas Hold'em. Oh, yeah, no doubt, dude. I feel like Verena would play poker. Most definitely. Some form of gambling. Current character is a fairly good Go player. You know, I've never played Go. I don't get it. It's probably not too terribly hard to understand. Is Go the same as Othello? I think it's similar. Go's interesting to me. Bard or Warlock would be killer at poker with the bluff checks. In-game Monopoly would just end in a TPK. Yeah, most definitely. I'm not familiar with Shuji or Shoji, but Go has always been cool to me. Wizard would play in a tournament mahjong. Yeah, I feel like spellcasters would play Magic just for like certainly like a Warlock would play Magic just for the pun. Just like, oh, anybody interested in a little magic? And then it's just like MTG. Shoji. Okay, cool. I'm not familiar. Go is about capturing, so it's near the same realm as Othello, but totally different rules. Yeah, it doesn't have to do with like, yeah, it's like land acquisition, area acquisition based on like where you place your token. You capture a specific area. Bard prefers Cards Against Humanity, yeah. And the Rogue too, like, I imagine too, like a barbarian type would want to play like a drinking game. And, Cards Against Humanity. Munchkin. Yeah, oh, Munchkin's real fun. Studebaker would probably be down for Munchkin. There's a board game called Blasphemy that we played at our FLGS Christmas party for like 8 years, and no one ever won a game of it. Wow. People going into cryo sleep and they play in a D&D virtual reality or multiple. Paladin argues about the rules, yeah. Cleric, too. I feel like the cleric would like be judging people. Shogi? Maybe that's it. Barbarians would play strip drinking games or arm wrestling versus the champion fighter, yeah. I do like that idea, though, of like games within games, and especially like with the RP aspect. I like the idea of being in one world and then like, you know, role-playing within role-playing. I think that lends itself to interesting stuff. Sorcerized game of mousetrap with a real mouse. Barbarian's headache while playing Risk. Oh, man. I have played so much Risk. In my life, I might have more hours on that game than any other game. I feel like when I was in 6th grade and I was in this really small private school down south, we played it almost every day. And, man, I've played a bunch of Risk. Risk is so fun. Had a player who ran a bard whose favorite game was hide and seek. Quidditch. Aren't they adding that to the Hogwarts game? I hope they do. I literally haven't touched it since I beat it. Like, when it came out, I played it, beat it, and then just, like, haven't messed with it since. Fighters and Pallies would enjoy Stratego. That's another really good one. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Amanda, for the gifted memberships. That's very kind of you. And I'm sure that people appreciate the memberships. And if anybody else has considered getting a membership, I think that it gives you no ads. I know that it gives you access to these cool, like, emoticons that you can post and stuff, and that's much appreciated. Anyone ever heard of Divine Right? That sounds familiar. Don't remember. I feel like I have heard that before, but okay. So yes, that was fun. That's always those are always fun exercises. Thank you for the question, Amanda. Okay, so we have one last question of the evening, and then we'll just like go into chat because this will get us there. The last question of the evening is from Sam, and Sam asks, "Hi Charles, I'm sure you've seen that the Jags have given Trevor Lawrence a huge deal, $275 million for 5 years with $142 million guaranteed. Do you think that this is worth it? Thank you again for being a rep for all of us sports fan nerds." Wow, thank you for the question, Sam. Also, not to be like totally off topic, but last I looked, Dallas Mavericks were whooping Boston's ass, and they still are. So I think that if Boston can keep it together, it's going to be a gentleman's sweep in the NBA. But yeah, so sorry, you're totally off topic. Your question was about football. Yeah, Trevor. All right, so I don't know. I don't know if he's worth that much money. You know, that's Joe Burrow money. Then again, I don't know if Joe Burrow's worth that much money. But yeah, I mean, that makes him, with Joe Burrow, the highest paid quarterback in the league. I don't know if it's warranted. But my question about the Jags is more than just about Trevor. I've spoken before about Trevor and about how, I think, to me, if I were the one in charge, I wouldn't have done that. I would have given things another year. And then if I had to pay him more next year, then I had to pay him more next year. That's at least I would get another year to figure it out. Because the problem with a contract that's that big is, what if he gets hurt again? Or what if he doesn't get hurt and he just super underperforms? Our entire receiving core has kind of moved around. Other than Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, I guess Gabe Davis is going to be another one of our new guys. And then we've got this rookie kid coming out of LSU. We'll see what he's like. 55 million a year seems to be a lot for a guy who really only had like one strong season with us out of 3. So I don't know. I would probably feel a lot different about it had he either not gotten hurt. Because I was just talking about this with my buddy the other day. I think that after he got hurt, they should have just sat him. And obviously, like, I know he probably wants to play, and it's like, if he says he's good, he's good. But it's like, I would have sat him and just let Beathard finish the season. And sometimes when I say that, people that are Jags fans are like, whoa, what are you talking about? And it's like, bro, we didn't make the playoffs anyway. At least if Trevor had sat, he could have been resting. And who knows, maybe we would have had a shot to at least get into the playoffs with Beathard and then let Trevor play then. But we're never going to know, because instead Trevor played hurt and then we just like totally fizzled out at the end of the season. I think that next year it's going to be harder than it was this last year for us to win our division, because I think that the Houston Texans are stacked. I think that Anthony Richardson will be back and healthy in Indianapolis, and I think that even the Titans might surprise some people. So I don't think that it's going to be as easy of a win for us in terms of just grabbing the division. So I personally, I don't think so. I wouldn't have given him the deal. But then again, I don't have the money to give, so it's not my call. I wouldn't have done it. I would have taken another year of analysis, see what happens. And then, because, people say, like, well, if he performs, what if you guys, like, make it into the playoffs and do really well, and then he, then it's 60 million or 70 million a year. And it's like, yeah, but, that's a bridge that you can cross when you get to it, For the moment, We can't even make the playoffs. So let's make the playoffs, and then maybe I'll feel better. And hey, maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be. Maybe we'll go to the Super Bowl next year. I would love for that to happen. I just don't know how realistic it is, and I don't know if he's worth all that much just based on the body of work. So we'll see. Maybe I could be wrong. I'll tell you what, I was wrong about Luka in Dallas. I didn't even think they'd make the playoffs, and here they are in the finals. So I hope I'm wrong. 142 million players, regardless of sports, shouldn't get paid hundreds of millions to play a damn game. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I mean, the only argument that I would make is that, you know, in this wonderful supply and demand type economy we have, the amount of ad revenue and just general profit that these players generate the NFL, it does garner it. It isn't any different than like somebody at a call center making $17 an hour. It's just like a percentage of the profits that are made. So, you know, it is certainly crazy. But, yeah, unfortunately, unless we make some serious changes about like how the whole market works, I don't see that changing anytime soon. I mean, baseball doesn't even have caps. Didn't Ohtani get paid like $1 billion? It's only going to go up, by the way. So it'll be interesting to see. Talking about the people who play a ball to score points. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's any crazier than politicians that are multimillionaires or, you know, like celebrity, like reality TV stars. I mean, think about those people that are just like, literally, they just live their lives, and because their lives generate drama, they can make millions of dollars just being on TV. I think that there's a lot of that going on with people. And I think that regardless of I think it also depends on what you do with it too. Because like a lot of these players do give back. A lot of these players do, you know, generate a lot of good things for their communities. Not all of them, but a good amount of them do. And I think it's just like anything else, you know, like I think of like look at religion is that way, where it's like there are pastors who like do a lot of great stuff for their community, and they're there because they really care about their community. And then there are also guys like the Joel Osteen guy, or I can't think of the other guy's name, Kenneth Copeland, where it's like, oh, well, it's clear that these people are just about making millions and millions of dollars and nothing else. So money is finite. Yeah, that depends on who you ask, though. That's the thing. Expecting infinite growth in a finite system. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess we're officially in chat now, that we're just kind of like rambling about whatever. So what's going on? My issue with actors and athletes getting paid that much is they act like life is so hard. I do agree with that, River. I will say that is a thing that's annoying, where I'll see like some celebrity be like, oh man, like anybody that's rich that's complaining about anything, miss me with that, dude. Because like I was doing some math the other day, and I was thinking like, it made me think of that Watsky, when Watsky did the when Watsky did a cover, this rapper, and at the end of the song he said, it was the Paris song by Jay-Z and Kanye, and then at the end he says, what's 50,000 to somebody like me, would you please remind me? And Watsky's like, $50,000 is a lot of money. It's a life-changing amount of money for most people. And I was thinking like, yeah, dude, if I had $50 million, if I had $50,000, my entire life would change like overnight. Like I would pretty much be debt free and could actually like move forward. Meanwhile, these athletes and actors and politicians even, and religious types like these big figureheads, it's like they're worth millions and millions of dollars. And it's not enough. It's still not enough. I was just listening to the radio today about this dude who's he's the owner of the Celtics, and he moved to Florida because he's upset about the millionaire tax. And he's like, you know, lots of rich people move to Florida, by the way, mostly because there's no state tax. But it's just like, what? It's not enough, dude. I gotta say, $1 million. I don't think you'd see. That's the thing that's different about me, I think, and some of these people. If I had $1 million, you might not ever even see me again. I'd probably just like get a spot, set up shop, and then just live out my days happily. So the idea that people would have multi-million dollars and still be complaining is pretty insane. Glad Justin and Melissa are at Cannes. Yep, that's true. They are. They're in France. Good thing of the week. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, good things of the week. Let's see. I got to spend this afternoon with my wife. That was a good thing of the week. I'm sure that there's another one. Is it going to be 4-0 in the NBA Finals? It doesn't look like it. It looks like Dallas is going to. It looks like it's. I predict a gentleman's sweep. I predict that Boston they'll adjust and they'll win in their house in Game 5. Got a scratch off at the store for like $30K. Whoa. I was just thinking how the $15K after taxes would fix so much. Yeah. Yeah, that is unfortunate. $69K a year and still live paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, well, dude, I feel like when I was like in my 20s, the amount that was required to be happy or whatever, right? Like where they did that study where they're like, every bit of money that you make, every bit of more money that you make affects your happiness up until a certain point, and then after that point, it doesn't really have any effect on it. And that number used to be like 70K, and now I think that number's like 200 or 300K. Like whatever, like the new standard, like 100K is like what 50K was 10 years ago or something. It's pretty insane. Forest City Comic Con this Sunday. Survive the week, survive the dentist. Nice. Made through the madness that your job's putting on me. Oh no, sorry to hear that. I hope you're dealing with it okay. Wife got a promotion at work. She got a significant raise. Now is working more than me. Hey, nice. We got a dumpster and cleared out our lot, our old broken furniture, and did a deep clean. Oh, that's always cathartic. That's always good to get stuff out of there and get stuff clean. Had an annual physical and blood work and everything's normal. Nice. Got to see Ron's cousins. Wife is an O-turn. What? Livable wage in SoCal is something like $24 an hour. Yikes, dude. And you know companies aren't paying that. Honey got a new gas grill for me. Oh, that's cool. Watching soccer of 2024. The one who dies with the most debt wins. Not watching soccer. I've never been too much of a soccer fan, honestly. I will say I did watch the USA-India cricket match, and that was a little bit embarrassing. The zero-turn mower, I see. Nice. Yeah, that was funny because I think a lot of people got like really hype and like interested in cricket when we beat Pakistan, and then we like immediately lost to India by 7 wickets. But to be fair, like India is one of the best cricket teams in the world. I mean, year in and year out, India is like towards the top of that conversation. So if we're gonna lose to anybody, you know, you lose to India. And did the Ireland match take place? I thought it got delayed. Oh no, it looks like they abandoned the match. I wonder if they're going to make it up. But it looks like we're supposed to play South Africa. They'll probably beat us. And then the West Indies on Friday. Yeah. Finally start saving for a house instead of a... Yeah, I hear you. I think a lot of people are that way. That's what's so disappointing, is that you have all these industries where people are making tens of millions of dollars, and like most people in the country, they're, you know, you give them 50 to 100K and everything would be different for them. So your wife makes more than you and cooks a great meatloaf. You're a lucky man. Yeah, it sounds like it, man. Hold on to her. It's not until we start winning that we care. Yeah, and honestly, I'd fallen off paying attention to cricket for a while. I embarrassingly didn't even know we had a T20 cricket team because we didn't until like 2019. So it's only been a couple of years that we've even had a team. The fact that we've even been invited to the T20 circuit is really cool. So... Okay, well, here we are at the end again, gang. I can't believe it. Before I get out of here, I do want to just quickly remind everybody once again, next Saturday, the June 22nd, from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, we'll be having a fan meetup at the Coliseum of Comics on Highway 17. It's 5517 Roosevelt Boulevard in Jacksonville, 32244. Please come and hang out if you're able to. That'd be neat. We're going to just be kind of hanging around. Probably going to have some shirts for sale and stuff, so we can do that. What are all the other things? Yes, there's a link for the Discord that Rivers just posted in the chat. If you're not already in the Discord, go ahead and join the Discord. It's fun in there. There's lots of cool different like tabs and stuff. Lots of just bardette stuff going on. Another quick reminder that the Math Lord album will be coming out likely within the next week or two. I'll be posting more about that on my social once I get like a more specific date for it, but keep your eyes open for that. A reminder again of the email for the show, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. Please send all your questions, concerns, critiques, complaints, criticisms, stories, follow-ups, etc. to bardadvice@gmail.com. You can get some merch over at manshorts.com or also at krakendice.com, where you can get some Man Shorts dice. If you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, YAHZICK. I think that's everything. Yes, and thank you, Amanda, for the reminder. Please, everybody, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, turn on the notifications, rate the podcast, etc. We will be back next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Man Shorts YouTube channel. The audio for this podcast, as always, will be made available tomorrow, Saturday at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time. I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend and an even better week, and we will see you next time.